You're listening to Don't IEP Alone with Special Education Advocate Lisa Lightner. For more information about Lisa, the IEP Toolkit, and more ways we can help you in your process, go to adayinourshoes.com. Now back to the show with your host, Lisa.
Hey, welcome. Lisa Lightner, Special Education Advocate here, and thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time or spending a few moments of your time with me. I know that your time is valuable. Today I want to talk about an opinion that I have that is one of my least popular opinions, and I've gotten into disputes and arguments with other advocates over this. Don't tell parents that. I can't believe you say that. My opinion is this, is that IEP meetings are really not that important. Or, that's kind of the phrase I say to get your attention, but I believe it in the sense that I do not believe, and the process reveals this, that IEP meetings carry the weight and the gravity and the importance that parents put on them. Because anytime you talk to a parent about IEPs, the meeting, my team is so rude and they always say no. I hate them. I drink a bottle of whiskey afterward. Right? Like when you talk to a parent about the IEP meeting, that's what they remember. Or when you talk to them about IEPs, what they remember is the IEP meeting. And that's kind of the part that stands out in your mind. And parents dread them for weeks ahead of time, and they beat themselves up for days, sometimes afterward, as far as what happened. But here's the thing, is that all of the work and all of the IEP work, as far as evaluations and progress monitoring reports and the data collection and the behavior reports and even grades and homework assignment and attendance and all these different things, it's all the pre-work and all the work around it that matters so much more than the meeting itself. Now, IDEA, of course, is the law that oversees IEPs. And IDEA says that the IEP team needs to meet at least once a year to develop an IEP for the child. Now, sure, that was really cute in 1975. However, we are here more than 50 years later, countless lawsuits and Supreme Court cases later, right? And IEPs are legal documents, and they're binding, and we have become such a litigious society that it's just not realistic that an IEP is going to be developed in an IEP meeting. And we all know this, right? It doesn't mean it's predetermination necessarily, but how often does the IEP team walk into the room with a blank IEP document and say, well, here we go, folks, let's develop this IEP? They don't, right? Everything's been done ahead of time, and then it's time for the team to discuss the final details and just kind of hammer out the last minute things. So what matters more is, again, all of these things that you're doing ahead of time. It's all the things that, you're walking into meetings knowing what decisions are likely to happen before they happen. I am very rarely surprised at IEP meetings anymore for myself, my own child, or for clients, because we've done so much data, documentation, and communication ahead of time. I know what they're going to bring to the table. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily willing to accept it, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we don't always have an advocacy battle ahead of us. But I know what decisions are likely to happen, or what they're likely to offer before they happen, right? It's not about reacting in the meeting. It's about shaping what happens in the meeting. It's about not just hearing no, but understanding why they said no and what we're going to do to move them to yes, right? The difference is what happens before and around the meeting. That's what matters more than the meeting itself. Okay? It's not about scrambling. Like, one thing that people don't understand about hiring an advocate is that, oh, it's so much better with you here and all that. It's that a good advocate does all this stuff. So we've already explained to you what is likely to happen in the meeting, so you're not scrambling to respond in the moment, because we've already done the record review. We've already told you, well, I think that this is what we can expect. So there are no surprises. Okay? I don't walk into IEP meetings just kind of hoping for a good outcome. Like, hope is part of IEP advocacy, but it's not an advocacy strategy alone. I walk into IEP meetings being reasonably assured of I know what that IEP is going to say if I haven't received a draft ahead of time. And not all states require a draft IEP. Some do. Teams don't just suddenly agree because an advocate is there, and your IEP meeting didn't get easier just because we're there as a buffer. It's because we've helped you lay the groundwork. So we're walking in already understanding what's likely to happen. We've already laid the groundwork, and we're not guessing, and we're not losing sleep the night before and the night after because, well, geez, I had really hoped that they were going to offer this or that or a different placement or a reading program or whatever it is. No, we lay the groundwork so that you get that reading program, so that you get that out-of-district placement that you're seeking. That's what a good advocate does. Teams do not just say yes because I walked into the room. They say yes because I've done the work ahead of time to make it incredibly hard for them to say no. Because the paper trail, the data, the documentation, the argument is all still there. And even when they do say no, I don't just berate them and ask them to change their mind. I take that information and I say, okay, you said no. Let's use that as a data point. What would it take for you to come to a different conclusion? What data and documentation would you need to see to say yes? And we take that information and we set about getting it. Okay. That's all I have for today. That's 7 minutes. I don't want to use up any more of your time. I'm trying to keep this information in bite-sized chunks. I wish that I had gotten this episode out before peak IEP season. I realize that by the time it publishes, that most of you will have had your annual IEP meeting since we are into May. But keep it in mind for next time. Do the pre-work and the work and the data and the documentation and the participation and the communication ahead of time so that there are no surprises at the IEP meeting. And registration is going on now for Don't IEP Alone if you wish to learn my exact strategy of how I do that. It's 4 steps. 4 steps of exactly how I line up IEP situations to make it very difficult for teams to say yes. Very difficult for them to say no and get to a yes. So enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to Don't IEP Alone with Special Education Advocate Lisa Lightner. We're so glad you've joined us and would love to connect with you outside of the show. For more information about Lisa, the IEP Toolkit, and more ways we can help you in your process, go to adayinourshoes.com. From self-care tips to common IEP mistakes, there's even more to explore. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast and subscribe to never miss an episode. Until next time, don't IEP alone, and you don't have to.